if you watch the first video I posted about the chaos that unfolded on Capitol Hill this week, I was very clear and gave an in-depth explanation why I don't think we should define that as a coup or terrorism or sedition, because ultimately what happened was mainly property damage, trespassing, violating the norms, breaching decorum, and scaring some politicians a little bit. So I think it would be more accurate to describe what happened as a riot / some form of direct action. And if you want to hear me explain my thinking on that, just go watch the video that I posted earlier, because this video I'm going to talk about Trump's role in all of this. Trump and Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Rudy Giuliani, and some of the other Republicans, the role that they had in everything that unfolded. And then I'm also going to talk about the response from social media and these giant internet corporations to basically ban Trump and remove him from the internet. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I believe he has a Shopify store where he sells his merch. They banned him from there too. I'm going to get into whether that was an appropriate response or just flat out arbitrary censorship. So let me start with Trump's role in all of this. Now, I think it's clear that he bears some responsibility for what happened, because he did rile up his supporters. His supporters would not have been out there if he did not explicitly tell them to come out to the Capitol on that day to protest the certification of the Electoral College election results. 150,000 people would not have been out on the streets in the Capitol if Trump didn't explicitly tell them to be out there. And to the whole thing about him just refusing to accept that he lost the election, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He knows it's ridiculous. And I know that there are some people who are even some people on the left who are saying that there may have been some irregularities in some parts of the country when it came to counting the votes, when it came to the election. And I'm going to be real with you. I really didn't even care to look too much into it and go through all of the allegations about Dominion and all the other things. I didn't really care to go through it with a fine-tooth comb for several reasons. And it's not because I don't think election integrity in this country is an important issue. And I also know for a fact that Democrats do rig elections and Republicans do it too. So both parties flagrantly try to manipulate election results and do things like trying to have certain ballots thrown out or purging voter rolls, voter suppression. They all do it. I would never just blanket say there is no reason for skepticism when it comes to our election results. Now, if Joe Biden, if there was some bombshell documents discovered that show without a doubt Joe Biden rigged the election and stole the election, of course I'm going to talk about it. But that just hasn't been the case. At the end of the day, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, if he actually had proof of anything he was alleging, that something happened with the voting machines in all these different counties, in all these different states, and it all led to Joe Biden winning the election. If Donald Trump had proof of that, he's the president of the United States, he has the full resources of the federal government, he could make that case in court and prove it. If he had the proof of it. And if he didn't have proof, if he just had a hunch, again, president of the United States, in charge of the entire federal government apparatus, He can find the evidence if it was there that Joe Biden rigged the election and stole it. He could have found the evidence, could have made it public, could have brought it to court. But that evidence didn't exist. He went to court, lost dozens of court cases trying to contest the results. It's over. Joe Biden's going to be the next president of the United States. And with everything else that's going on, I don't get the obsession with irregularities in a county here and a county there and a county in another state. Like, I'm not interested in it. But nevertheless, Donald Trump has been egging on his supporters, and I think he knows that the election wasn't rigged. He can't, his ego is so big, he cannot admit that he lost. And this is a reaction that we all expected that he'd have if he ever lost his re-election. So, of course, since the day after the election, he's going around talking about stop the steal. This is a tragedy. I can't believe they let Joe Biden steal the election. They're ruining democracy and all this stuff. And he's been going on about this since November. And a lot of his supporters, his supporters are very cultish. Some of them are unhinged. But whatever their dear leader Donald Trump says, they go with it. So they've all been running with it and coming up with their own different conspiracies of how the election was rigged and all this stuff. So he's been feeding into that. A lot of the other Republicans have been feeding into that, and that culminated after the Electoral College certified the results, and then Congress was going to have their final, I think it's like a ceremonial vote or whatever, which is what happened this week on Wednesday. So it all culminated when Donald Trump says, go out there and protest because we all know they stole this shit. Now let's, go out there, protest it, and support the Republicans who are going to, Republican senators and Republican congressmen who are going to do some type of useless objection to the results during the voting. As far as that, yes, Donald Trump gets blamed for riling up his supporters and calling them out to the Capitol. He bears responsibility for that. But beyond that, though, and it's fair to say that he's manipulating his supporters and he was doing it just to feed his own ego, to have all those people, over 100,000 people, take over the Capitol and doing it all for their dear leader, Donald Trump. Of course, that was a huge ego boost to Trump. And so you can say he was wrong for all of that. But where I kind of draw the line is trying to squarely place the blame on him for the riot. I don't agree with that, because I listened to his speech before, his rally before. Nowhere in there did he say, all right, everybody, let's go to the Capitol and let's fuck shit up. Let's start a riot. Let's break some shit. Let's scare some people. He didn't say that. He just said, go out there. They're stealing the election and whatever. To say that he incited the riots, I don't agree with that. And then even after they started, he put out that video where, yes, he was mealy mouthed and he was still saying, yeah, man, they really did steal this shit. I can't believe they stole this shit. But guys, you gotta be calm. You have to respect the police officers, go home and all that stuff. That's what Trump was saying. He put out a video saying that while all this was going on in the Capitol. He put out 2 tweets where he kind of said the same thing. Sure, it wasn't as a forceful denunciation as many people wanted, sure. But at the same time, he's telling people to go home and stop the riot. So, like many stories with Trump, I think it was very easy for people to say, oh, here we go, Trump bad, look at him, inciting this riot and this mayhem in the Capitol. He's entirely responsible. Let's remove him from the internet because of it. And I just don't agree with that. And if you listen to the show, I despise Donald Trump. I despise everything he stands for. I despise his extremist right-wing politics and policies. I despise his racism and how he is very comfortable with the white supremacists who support him. I think his economic policies have been disastrous. I think he's on every level. He's a shitty, corrupt establishment politician. And if you know anything about this show, you know I strongly disagree with that kind of politics and politicians. So I'm no fan of Donald Trump here. And so sometimes it may seem like I'm defending Donald Trump and I'm going out of my way to make an argument in defense of Donald Trump, but that's not what's happening. Anytime there's a situation like this, when people try to make it seem black and white, Trump bad, and anything that happens, and because Trump bad, it justifies any response from the politicians, from social media, or whatever, because Trump bad. When I see stories like this, when I see instances like this, it makes me take a step back and not come up with not like be obtuse on purpose and just defend Trump just to be contrarian, but it makes me take a step back and try to look at the situation objectively. Imagine if it was the shoe was on the other foot and it was somebody else, somebody who was a leader of the left movement. Let's say for whatever reason, they summon their supporters, say it was Bernie Sanders, summon their supporters to the Capitol, say, we need Medicare for all right now, we need single payer right now, and this isn't debatable, this isn't negotiable anymore, people are dying, and it is entirely avoidable. We need single payer right now. And he summoned his supporters to the Capitol, 150,000 people show up. And he's ranting and raving and railing against the establishment, railing against the machine, railing against the entire political establishment, the media and everybody. Like I said, 150,000 his supporters there. And then some of them take it upon themselves to start a riot. Now, again, Bernie didn't explicitly say, we're going to start a fucking riot. Let's start breaking shit. He didn't say that, but some people did. You have 150,000 people there. There is no way you can control what every single one of them does. This whole thing of Trump is 100% responsible for everything that happened, everything that his supporters do. I don't agree with that. Because like I said, the shoe was on the other foot. Bernie Sanders has 150,000 of his supporters, and then some of them start breaking shit. Some of them start a riot. Okay, what's the media going to do? You tell me what the media is going to do. You think the media is going to be kind to Bernie Sanders and say, hey man, I don't think he really meant to like start a riot or anything like that. He didn't explicitly say start breaking shit. He didn't explicitly give the order to start a riot. Some of his supporters just got out of hand. You think the media and the political establishment will give Bernie Sanders the benefit of the doubt? No, they won't. They would do the same to him like they're doing to Donald Trump right now. They would say, oh, look at Bernie Sanders having these fucking rebels and these terrorists, these radical left-wing terrorists descend on the Capitol and unleash mayhem. That's the exact narrative that they would have if Bernie Sanders had a peaceful rally and then some of them took it too far and some people got out of hand. So in that scenario, would you still say that, oh, let's ban Bernie Sanders from the internet because some of his supporters broke some shit? He had 150,000 people in the Capitol and some of them broke some shit. So let's ban him from the internet. So the fact that it was this instance, this is the excuse that they're using to completely remove Donald Trump from the internet. I have a problem with that. Because nobody has offered a concrete explanation as to why they did it. They say he incited the riots or whatever. Again, in none of his messages did he ever say, let's start a fucking riot. So what is how are they defining inciting a riot? Nobody's asking that question. Everybody's just looking at the end result. Oh, Trump bad. I don't like Trump. They took Trump off the internet, and I think that's good. Okay, it doesn't just stop there. Donald Trump is the most powerful person on the planet right now. And you mean to tell me all of the tech companies, they can just gather in a room like some type of fucking cabal and unilaterally decide on their own, completely arbitrarily, we are going to make it so that he can't even post on the internet, so that he can't speak to the American public. The most powerful person in the world and leader of the country can't go directly to the internet and speak to the public. Again, it's just randos, executives at Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Google, who just decided this on their own unilaterally. Why is anybody okay with random people with their own agendas and their own political biases? Why would anybody be okay with giving them the unilateral authority to just remove people from the internet? And the added layer of outrageousness to this all is they're going to ban him over political speech, over words he said. And like I said, it wasn't like he organized and incited riots or a coup. No. All he said was, hey man, I feel like they stole this shit from me. And you guys should go out and protest it. Now you can ban somebody from the internet for that? Again, I think he's wrong. I think he should have just conceded and dropped this shit, because he clearly doesn't have a case to make that they stole the election. But still, just because somebody's wrong doesn't mean you can just remove them from the internet. They still have free speech rights. They still have the right in this country to say what they want. So I think no matter who you are in this country, no matter how much you despise Donald Trump, I think people need to be very conscious of the precedent that this sets, because this is what I need people to understand. When all these tech companies, they gather and make unilateral decisions like this, it's not a one-time thing. They didn't just do this for Donald Trump. Now that they've done it to Trump, you think that they'll just stop there. They'll all just stop there. They'll be like, okay, we did it for Trump. That's a one-time thing, everybody. We're never going to ever do this again. We're never ever going to gather in a room and conspire and decide who on the internet gets to speak and who gets to be just completely removed on the internet. Nope. Once we've exercised that power on the most powerful person on the planet and we got away with it, we will never ever ever do it again. That is such a childish way to think about this. Of course, they're just going to keep doing this because nobody stopped them. This has been completely unchecked. Nobody said, hey, I think you guys are going too far. You need to slow your roll, and you don't get to just completely control discourse and remove people from who say things that you don't like on the internet. Nobody's doing that. So of course they're just going to keep doing it. And we're already seeing it wasn't just Trump. Since this all started, there's been a whole new wave of unchecked censorship by these social media companies. I've seen a bunch of people who are closely related to Trump, some people who used to work in the Trump administration like Michael Flynn, now they're being suspended. And guess what they're being suspended for now? Has nothing to do with the riots. Now they're being suspended because they posted something about QAnon. Again, I don't agree with the QAnon conspiracy theory. I think there, of course, there's merit to it because, the whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal exposed that there is a child sex trafficking ring where a bunch of elites are participating in it. So that part of it, there's some truth to it, but I don't agree with the entire QAnon conspiracy theory. That being said, do I think anybody who posts anything about it should be removed from the internet? No. But here's the thing. Everybody is now foaming at the mouth to censor everything and anything that can possibly be related to Donald Trump and the people who associate with him. And it's become just this tribal thing like, oh yeah, go get them, take them all off the internet, I fucking hate them. And nobody is seeing the bed that they are making for themselves. Because after all of this, yeah, everybody take your shots and give yourself a round of applause and a pat on the back because we got Donald Trump, he's off the internet. But just remember that this is the bed you made and you're going to lie in it. There's already a wave of thousands and thousands of social media accounts being suspended and purged and deleted from all different platforms. And they're giving a bunch of different reasons. Oh, they said some things about the riots. They said some people tweeted something and it sounded like they were in support of the riots, or the QAnon stuff, or whatever it is. They're making up a bunch of different reasons to ban people from the internet because they said something that they don't agree with. So at this very moment, it may look like they're just going after the people you disagree with, but you have to take a step back and you have to look, who are these people who are making these censorship decisions? It is the establishment. It's the political establishment, because there's a bunch of politicians, Democratic politicians, who are egging this on, who are encouraging this, and who are putting pressure on the social media companies to do the actions that they've taken. So you have the political establishment, and then you have the corporate oligarchy and establishment. They're the ones who are making these censorship decisions. These are the people we are giving broad, unchecked censorship powers to. Why on earth do you think they will never turn it on to the left, the people who they claim are radicals and extremists? Of course they're going to turn it on us. So this is feeling like another shock doctrine moment, where there was a shock. The initial shock was seeing the riots and the mayhem at the Capitol. That was a shock to the country. And then now, powerful people who already have a pre-planned agenda that they were already pushing for are now using the cover of the chaos, the smoke, and the fear in the public. They're using that as cover to push their agenda that they already had, which was to censor Donald Trump. How long have they been calling to remove Donald Trump from the internet? Since he goddamn was running for president. They've been wanting to remove him from the internet because he says words that they don't like. And so they're using the cover and the fear of this emergence or this shock in the country to do what they already wanted to do. And the censorship is part of it. They're also, Joe Biden and some Democrats are talking about introducing legislation to combat domestic terrorism. Do you think that this, again, and Joe Biden was the one who wrote the Patriot Act. So do you think they're going to have the precise discernment when they write this legislation to specifically address domestic terrorism in this country? No, they're not. Because you know why? You know what they're going to do? They're going to classify, it's going to be a very broad brush that they're going to try to use to describe domestic terrorism. Like I said, they call what the action at the Capitol, they call that terrorism. It wasn't like anybody was out there targeting civilians and there was like a mass shooting or somebody set off a bomb and killed a bunch of civilians or anything like that. But still, they're calling property damage and breaching decorum, violating the norms. They're calling that terrorism. So now, if they're going to introduce domestic terrorism laws or a legislation, guess what? It's going to cover property damage and violating the norms and disrupting business as usual. They're going to classify all that as domestic terrorism, and this whole new war, domestic war on terrorism that they're trying to start, it's not just going to be explicitly at the Trump to cover the Trump supporters at the rally. It's going to be covering anybody who is protesting the political establishment, anybody who is organizing and doing direct action against the political establishment. So they're going to use this moment, this shock, to push through new legislation that gives the government even more spying powers, even more authority, go after organizers and activists. I think people need to be very aware and there needs to be just a sober analysis of what actually happened and whether or not the response to it is proportionate.